In this video, we are going to look at what it takes to build a six-figure publishing business so that you can build your very own business publishing books on Amazon KDP. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I really do appreciate it. The purpose of today's video is to help you create a solid plan of how to get from A to B in creating a successful publishing business, and more specifically, how to go from $0 to $100,000 per year publishing books. I think it is a very important part of business to create a plan, because if you don't have a plan, then you don't really have a roadmap of where you want to go. And I would like to say here as well, not everybody needs a plan. If you're happy just making a little bit of money on the side here or there, or you're just publishing books as a hobby, then having a plan isn't going to be necessary. But if you do want to build a successful, legitimate business and one that will become your main source of income, maybe you want to replace your day job's income, or maybe you want to supplement that income to create more freedom in your life so that you can actually do the things that you enjoy doing, then if that is you, you are going to want to have a goal in mind. I have chosen six figures for the purpose of this video, and I did that because it is quite a common income goal for people who are building online businesses. It's usually the first big milestone that people aim for, and it's one that's not too unbelievable or too hard to reach. And I mean that in the sense that sometimes starting out by saying something like, I want to make $1 million from publishing books this year, it's quite a big goal, especially if you're going from a fairly low paying job, or going from making absolutely nothing online to a massive goal of $1 million. That can just become too overwhelming for most people, especially those starting out. So that's why a lot of people start with, let's make $100,000 publishing books this year. But the steps that I am going to go through today can be applied to any income figure that you have in mind. So don't feel limited by a six-figure income if you do have a higher goal in mind. Just use this same methodology for whatever income figure goal it is that you have. So the steps to get to six figures publishing books is pretty basic, and I don't mean that in any way this is an easy process, but this is not a complicated process. What we want to do before starting to make any books or publishing anything, we want to figure out what our goal is exactly, so then we can figure out how we are going to get there. So in this case, our goal is to make $100,000 per year from publishing books. And make sure you are very specific with the goal that you have in mind. And we are going to be talking about publishing low or medium content books. Personally, I prefer medium content books, and I did do a video last week about why I no longer publish low content books. But whether you choose to publish low or medium content, that is your choice. You don't have to only publish medium content if you don't want to. And we are now going to be doing something called reverse engineering, which is basically working backwards from our end goal to uncover or discover the steps that we need to take to get to that end goal. $100,000 is still a pretty big goal, so to avoid getting overwhelmed, let's start to break it down even further. Let's break it down into smaller steps. How much will we need to make each month to reach $100,000 by the end of the year? If we divide $100,000 per year by 12 months, this equals $8,333 per month. But for the ease of math, let's just round it up to $8,500 per month. And then drilling that down even further, this works out roughly to be around $275 per day. And now that we've broken that down, these figures just seem so much more manageable than that big figure of $100,000. What we essentially want to do is take small steps every day that compound over the year and build up to something really big. So in terms of money, we want to make smaller amounts each day or month that add up and eventually help us reach that six-figure goal. So now we have our daily, monthly, and yearly goals set out. The next step is to work out how we are actually going to reach those goals. How many books do we even need to sell to reach those income goals. To do this, we will have to work out what royalty we're going to make for each book sold. The royalty that you make is going to depend on a few things, like the kind of books you are publishing, the niche that you're in, and how much you're pricing your book at. I only publish medium content books these days, and one of the reasons that I chose to do that is because medium content books have the potential to fetch a higher royalty because there is the opportunity to be able to price these books higher than you can when you publish low content books. And just quickly, for anyone here who hasn't seen any of my previous videos or is new to self-publishing books on Amazon, there is a distinct difference now between low and medium content books on Amazon. Low content books are books with no content in them and have repetitive pages, so think notebooks, journals, and logbooks. Medium content books are books that have more substantial content in them, but also don't include a lot of words like a novel or something like that. So these are books like coloring books, activity books, or puzzle books. That's just a few that fall within the medium content category, and these medium content books are the kind of books that I prefer to publish. Royalties on medium content books generally range between $2 to $4 per book sold, but there are books that make even higher royalties than that. A video that I shared recently where I talked about a brand that is making a massive $70,000 per month publishing Learn How to Draw books. I showed in that video that their books are making a $3.79 royalty per book sold, so theirs are on the higher end. And then there are other brands that I've researched, like this one, which is a brand making $6,000 per month publishing word search puzzle books, and their books are making a $2.04 royalty per book sold. And then there are other books that I've seen that are making a $2.46 royalty per book sold. So for the sake of this video, let's just go somewhere in the middle, and let's say we are working with a $3 royalty per book sold. If we are making $3 per book sold each day, then this means we need to sell 92 books per day to reach our $100,000 goal. So less than 100 books a day. That's not a huge amount. And when we think or look back on some of the brands that I have looked at and researched on my channel, we know that it isn't that unusual to sell a lot more than 100 books per day. For example, using the Learn How to Draw books again to show that when I did a deep dive into that brand a couple of weeks ago, they are selling a whopping 615 books per day at a minimum. Also, just as a little side note, if the Learn How to Draw books are something that interests you, as in it's something that you might be interested in publishing yourself, keep an eye out for some extra special videos that I'll be sharing this weekend that will help you create those exact books for yourself. But going back to selling 92 books a day to make $275 per day, this can still seem like a lot of books to sell to some people. So let's break this down even further. What if we decide to spread this out over multiple books? Let's say we decide that we're going to create a series of 10 books that we're going to publish to sell on Amazon. So using this 10 books that we're going to have published, we can work out that we only need to sell less than 10 books per book per day to reach our target. Firstly, why would we do this? Why would we create multiple books? Creating a series of books is a really great strategy to help sell more books. First of all, if you have more books or if you have multiple books, there is the chances that one of them is going to sell a lot, or they're all going to sell enough to reach your target, or you might have one or two that don't do well at all, but at least you've got the others that would be hopefully making sales to make up for the couple that don't do as well as you thought. If that happens, continue to create high quality books until you do have 10 that are selling those 10 books per day that you need to reach that $100,000 goal. There is a saying in the publishing world of more books sell more books. If someone does buy your book and love it, and then they see that you have other similar books, this only increases the chances of them buying more books from you. Also, let's just go back to the video I did a couple weeks ago with the example of the Learn to Draw books that are selling over $70,000 per month from just a handful of books. That $70,000 isn't even coming from 10 books, although they do have, from memory, 13 books published. But I showed in that deep dive video that their customers are buying multiple books from their series in each purchase. And this is shown by this customers also purchased or frequently bought together section that is part of the Amazon sales listing page. So usually this little section will show 3 books that are bought together. And a lot of the times these books are from different publishers or different authors. What I was really surprised and excited to see from this particular brand is that customers are buying 3 at least of this brand's book in one purchase. So they are not just getting one royalty from one customer, they're getting at least 3 royalties per order or per customer purchase. And this is exactly what you want to happen. So by having at least 10 books available to your customers is just going to increase the chances of selling multiple books to that one customer. Wouldn't you rather sell more books to one person than trying to get more people to buy just one of your books? Now, we are looking at selling just 10 books per day for each of the 10 books that you have published. Doesn't this seem just so much more manageable, so much more doable? When we break it down like this, that big goal of $100,000 per year just seems so much more doable. And that is what gives us that motivation to actually start and to actually keep going in those beginning stages when things are just sort of getting going and ramping up. Because when we reverse engineer and break it down very simply, it becomes something we can actually do. And it shouldn't take very long either to get these 10 books published. Even if it took you 1 week to publish 1 book, within just a few months, you would have those 10 books published. Okay, from here, we have our 10 books planned that we're going to publish. We now have to figure out how we are actually going to make these books. Medium content books are a little harder to make than low content books. Anybody can make a notebook. And that's also another reason why I do like medium content books. They do take a bit more time and effort, and not a lot of people are going to put in that effort and time to create these kind of books because honestly, a lot of people out there are just looking for the quickest and easiest way to make money. They're not actually interested in creating high quality books that are actually going to be useful to people. There's a few ways that you can go about creating these kind of books, and the way that you go about it will mostly depend on the kinds of books that you are going to publish. For example, if you want to create or publish coloring books, you may need to source and purchase coloring pages to put into your book, or you may need to even hire an illustrator to create those pages for you. If you are an artist or a graphic designer, you might know how to create these coloring pages yourself, which is perfect and will save on money that you might need to invest in creating that kind of book. If puzzle books are interesting to you, then you will need to invest in some really good quality software that can help you make those kinds of puzzle books. And there is software out there that can help you make a huge range of different puzzles, from word searches, crosswords, sudokus, cryptogram, just to name a few. There are tons of puzzle books that you can make from the software available. Remember to look at it as investing in your business, and that money that you spend is something that you should be able to recoup once you've got all your books published and they're starting to sell. Also, outsource things like cover design so that you can get the most professional, high quality cover that you can, because it is one of the most important parts of your book. And also so that your time can be freed up to do other things in your business to help get those books published and actually available for sale. And the last step, of course, is getting those books selling. Use things like Amazon ads, social media, build up an email list, utilize Instagram or Facebook advertising, and even use influencer marketing. Find what marketing method works for you. And once you find what works for you, you scale that up until your books are selling 10 books per day at a minimum. Now, something interesting that I do want to mention, because we have just mentioned influencer marketing, and I do want to mention something about how powerful that influencer marketing can be. A little while ago, I published a video, which I mentioned earlier in this video, which was a deep dive into a brand that is making $6,000 per month publishing and selling word search puzzle books. Now, I follow a girl on Instagram who is a psychologist, and her account is aimed at women and mums, and she helps people with navigating relationships with their children and their family. And she has a pretty big account. Her name is Dr. Morgan Cutlip, and she has over 137,000 Instagram followers. I know she has other social media platforms, but I'm not sure what her follower count is on there. But I'm sure she's doing pretty well on TikTok and Facebook as well. So I was scrolling Instagram a few days after I had made that video about the brand making $6,000 per month with word search puzzle books. And I was watching an Instagram story that this psychologist posted, and there was a photo of her son with that exact word search puzzle book that brand that I had featured in my video. Now, imagine how many of her followers, who are largely mothers as well, messaged her asking about the book. Even if a really small percentage, let's say even if only 5% of her followers asked her about that book, that is thousands of people potentially asking or being interested in that book, and possibly even going to Amazon and buying it as well. And that wasn't even a sponsored post or anything like that. That was just her posting a photo of her son, and she had obviously just happened to have bought that book for her kids as well, and her kid was using it. So that was just a bonus for that brand that their book was in her post. But sponsored posts and sponsored stories and things like that is something that you can do through influencer marketing if it interests you and it is something that you can get to work for you. But as I said, at the end of the day, what marketing method you do use will come down to which one you feel the most comfortable doing, how much money you might have to invest in it, and the one that gives you and your books the best results. So that is a very easy to follow, basic layout of how to build a six-figure publishing business selling medium content books on Amazon KDP. I hope that breaking it down like this shows you that it really is a pretty simple process, and one that can be made into small, manageable steps, goals, and processes that can eventually build up to a $100,000 a year business. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.